I drove into Blackthorn, Ohio, with a knot in my gut and the taste of rust on my tongue. The town looked dying, its streets lined with boarded-up shops and houses sagging under neglect. The old steel mill loomed in the distance, a skeleton of rusted beams and broken dreams. I'm Clara Henshaw, 42, with gray streaking my dark hair and a face carved by too many sleepless nights. My hands gripped the wheel of my beat-up pickup, the radio spitting static like it was trying to warn me to turn back. I didn't listen. I hadn't returned to Blackthorn in 15 years, not since my sister, Emily, vanished. But I was here now, and wasn't leaving until I found the truth. Emily was 17 when she disappeared, with bright eyes and dreams bigger than this crumbling town's. The cops called her a runaway, but I knew better. She'd been taken. I'd spent years chasing whispers. A name, a blurry photo, a police report I wasn't supposed to see. It all pointed to Leonard Voss, a mill worker with a scar like a crescent moon and a reputation for breaking more than just bones. He was here in Blackthorn, and I was going to find him. My hands shook as I pulled into the lot of the Blackthorn Inn, a dump with peeling paint and a neon sign flickering like a dying heartbeat. The clerk gave me a look that said I didn't belong, but I didn't care. I hauled my duffel to my room, the stairs creaking under my boots, and locked the door behind me. The room smelled of damp wood and despair. I dropped my bag and pulled out the folder I'd carried for years, newspaper clippings, police notes, and a photo of Emily smiling like the world couldn't touch her. I traced her face, my throat tight. I'm here, I whispered. I'll make this right. I didn't sleep that first night. The inn's walls hummed a low buzz that crawled under my skin. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, shadows twisting in the dark like they had a mind. I kept thinking about Emily, the night she went missing after a party at the mill. Kids used to sneak in there, climbing the catwalks, daring each other to be brave. The cops searched it, found nothing, and gave up. But I'd heard stories, screams in the night, workers who saw things that weren't there. I knew the mill held secrets. At dawn, I drove out to it. The place was a maze of crumbling brick and twisted steel, its gates chained, but the lock rusted through. I pried it open with a crowbar and stepped inside, my flashlight cutting through the gloom. The air was thick with dust and a sour smell, like something had died and never been found. Graffiti covered the walls, names, curses, and weird spirals that made my eyes ache. My boots echoed, too loud in the silence, and I felt watched, though I was alone. Or so I thought. A scrape stopped me cold. I swung my flashlight, catching nothing but shadows. "Who's there?" I called, my voice sharper than I meant. No answer, just a drip of water somewhere deep. I kept going, drawn to a stairwell that led down into the dark. The air got colder and heavier, like I was sinking into something alive. At the bottom was a door, its surface scratched with claw marks that formed a spiral, just like the graffiti. My heart pounded, but I pushed it open. The room beyond was huge, filled with rusted pipes and a massive furnace that looked like a gaping mouth. Something glinted inside it. I stepped closer, my breath catching. Emily's locket, which she never took off, was engraved with her initials. My fingers closed around it, the metal so cold it burned. Tears stung my eyes, but then a sound, no, a voice hit me, not in my ears but in my head. "She's still here," it whispered. I stumbled back, the flashlight slipping from my hand. The whisper grew, a chorus of voices angry and pleading all at once. The room spun, the furnace's mouth stretching wider, impossible, hungry. I ran, the voices chasing me up the stairs, through the corridors, and into the gray morning. I collapsed against my truck, the locket clutched tight, my chest heaving. Whatever was in that mill, it wasn't just a place. It was alive. I couldn't shake the feeling that Blackthorn was watching me, its empty streets heavy with secrets. I spent the next day in the library, a crumbling building with lights that flickered like they were on their last breath. Old newspapers on microfiche told me about the mill's closure, the layoffs, and a string of disappearances before Emily's. Voss's name came up once in a story about a bar fight where he'd carved up a guy's face. The description matched my photo: tall, broad, with that scar. He'd worked at the mill until it shut down, then vanished. But I knew he was still here. I could feel him. I tracked down Ray Cutler, an old mill worker, at a dive bar outside town. He was in his 60s, his face like cracked leather, hands shaking around a beer. "Voss," he said when I asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Stay away from him, Clara." He was off. They talked about the mill like it was alive, like it wanted something. After it closed, he didn't leave. Lived there, some said. People saw lights and heard screams. It wasn't just Emily. My stomach twisted. Where is he now? Ray's eyes flicked to the bar's dark corners. Maybe the old foreman's house by the mill. Nobody's gone near it since, you know. That night, I drove to the house, a rotting shack half-eaten by weeds. The windows were black, and the door cracked open like an invitation. I gripped my flashlight and a hunting knife, my heart hammering. The air was thick with mold and something sharper, metallic, like blood. The floor creaked under me. I found signs someone had been there. A dirty mattress, empty bottles, clothes in a pile, and on the walls, those damn spirals, drawn in what looked like ash. A creak came from upstairs. I froze, my breath shallow. Another creak, slow, deliberate. I climbed the stairs, and the hum from the inn back in my head was louder now. At the top, a hallway stretched into shadow, and there he was, Voss, his scar glinting, his eyes like pits. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice rough as gravel. "It knows you're here." "Where's my sister?" I demanded, my knife steady. He laughed, a sound that made my skin crawl. "She's part of it now. They all are. The mill takes what it wants." Before I could move, the floor shook, the walls pulsing like they were breathing. The hum turned into a scream, and my vision blurred. Voss was gone, swallowed by the dark. I stumbled out, the house alive around me, the spirals glowing like eyes. I drove back to the inn, my hands shaking, the locket burning against my skin. The whispers followed me now, even in my room. They sometimes spoke in Emily's voice, begging, then shifted to others, angry, hungry. I barely slept, my dreams filled with the mill's furnace, its mouth full of teeth, swallowing Emily whole. I woke gasping, the locket warm against my chest, like it was trying to tell me something. I went back to the library, desperate for answers. An old book on Blackthorn's history mentioned the mill's construction in 1890, which was built on land the locals called cursed. Workers died, accidents, suicides, worse. There were hints of a ritual, a deal made to keep something beneath the earth quiet. My hands shook as I read. The spirals, the voices, the furnace weren't just Voss. It was something older. I found Ray again, at his trailer this time. He was drunk, his eyes red. "The mill's alive," he mumbled. "Voss said it needed blood. He fed it, kids, drifters, anyone who got too close." I saw him once, dragging a body to the furnace. I didn't stop him. I was too scared. Rage surged through me. I grabbed his collar, shaking him. "Why didn't you say anything?" "I couldn't," he sobbed. "It's not just Voss. It's the mill. It wants. You go in there, you're gone." I left him there, my mind spinning. The mill wasn't just a building, it was a predator, and Voss was its servant. My revenge wasn't just for Emily anymore, but for all of them. I gathered what I needed: my knife, a crowbar, and a gasoline canister. If the mill wanted blood, I'd give it fire instead. The mill loomed under a moonless sky, black and endless. I went in alone, the locket heavy in my pocket, the gasoline sloshing in my hand. The whispers were a roar now, a chorus of voices screaming, pleading, cursing. The air felt thick like I was wading through mud. I headed straight for the furnace room, the claw-marked door wide open, waiting. Voss was there, his scars shining in my flashlight's beam, his eyes wild. "You can't stop it," he said. "It's older than us. It'll take you too." "You took my sister," I said, my voice cold as steel. "She was payment," he spat. "They all were. The mill gives, but it takes." The furnace roared behind him, flames licking its edges, though I hadn't seen anyone light it. The spirals on the walls glowed, and the voices in my head screamed louder. I gripped my crowbar, my heart pounding. "This ends now." I swung, hitting Voss in the chest. He stumbled, but the mill seemed to shield him, the floor tilting, the walls closing in. I poured the gasoline, my hands shaking, and struck a match. The flames caught fast, but the mill fought back. The furnace's mouth stretched wider, a black void pulling at me, hungry. Voss laughed, blood dripping from his mouth. "You can't burn it. It's forever." I didn't hesitate. I drove my knife into his heart, his body crumpling. The mill screamed a sound that ripped through my skull, but I kept going. I dragged Voss to the furnace, shoving him into its maw. The flames surged, the voices silenced, and I ran as the fire consumed everything. I stumbled outside, collapsing in the dirt, tears streaming down my face. The locket was cold now, Emily's presence gone. By morning, the mill was ash, and Blackthorn felt different, as if it could breathe again. I sat in my truck, the locket around my neck, its weight both comforting and painful. I'd avenged Emily, but it cost me something I couldn't name. The news called the fire an accident, Voss's death a mystery. But I knew what I'd done, what I'd faced. As I drove out of town, the horizon was gray but open, like a promise I wasn't sure I believed. The whispers were gone, but sometimes I'd feel a faint hum late at night, like the mill wasn't entirely dead. I kept driving, my hands steady on the wheel, refusing to look back. Emily was gone, but her shadow was mine to carry.